What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to the Still Knick Fans podcast. This is the Know the Ledge edition. I'm your man, Ron. This is my brother, John, over here. You might see us doing this for the next couple weeks, just until we get back to our normally scheduled programming and the usual setup that you guys have grown accustomed to. But we're going to keep doing this for a couple weeks, like I said, and give you some information about the Knicks. Going forward, this particular episode is going to be geared towards the roster, different things that are happening with the starters, the bench, the reserves, and some young hopefuls that are looking to make the team. All right, so
yes, sir.
What's going on, John? How you doing, brother?
I'm good. It's good to be back on with you, bro.
Yeah, man. I listen. I can't complain. You know what? I'm just happy to be talking Knicks stuff. This is one of those moments where you're wishing that we had some basketball to see, but it's gonna get there. I know it's coming. It's coming.
The great thing is that we're in a lot of like the news feeds. Like if you go to any kind of Roto World or Roto Wire, any one of those, and then you have your Bleacher Reports. We're always on some sort of news. Whether it's gossip news or potential trade news or things of that nature. We're definitely on top of everyone's mind. Media is always talking about the New York Knicks. I know there's been a lot of talks about this upcoming season and how we would kind of what we would end up as a record, how we would end up this year. And
Right.
They've been talking about Vegas odds a lot, so that's interesting too, to hear their process. Maybe we'll talk about that next week. Maybe we'll bring it back and talk about the odds and kind of what the predictions are, but for right now, like you said, we got a lot to talk about when it comes to like training camp, who's going to be on the roster, who isn't. Well, I'm ready to get started, brother.
Yeah. Sounds good. Oh, and I also wanted just to put out there, probably next week we can talk about the Knicks NBA schedule and how that's going to be shaping out. But yeah. I just want to throw out the fact that Knicks got a lot of nationally televised games this go around. It's a beautiful thing.
Crazy from nothing right to something. It's like I think last year we had no like syndicated televised like major network games, and then like midway through the season they added a couple, just to get the fanfare up,
Right.
But,
right.
This year we're starting out and we got games on Christmas Day and in prime time, so that's kind of good. That's a good look.
It's a lot of games. I don't know. It's officially, I don't know what the number is, because if you look at the Knicks schedule of nationally televised games that they're putting out, it says 22. But then if you look at the Knicks overall schedule and look at all 82 games, it looks like they've got 29 nationally televised games. It even shows like ABC or NBC or wherever it's on. So wow. I don't know. It's a lot of games. That's good.
Hey, listen, I still, regardless, I mean, you may have the not national televised games on Channel 7, but if they're on MSG simultaneously, I'm always popping up on MSG.
Oh, yeah.
Got to hear it from Clyde.
I prefer to watch them on MSG. That's where I want to watch them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm right there with you, man.
All right, man. So let's get it cracking, bro. Big shout out to our brother Jose. He's out on vacation at this current moment, and we hope he's having a great time. We look forward to seeing him in the near future, and we'll be back to full strength.
That's right. That newlywed is doing his thing.
Yes, he is. So just starting it off, if we're taking a look at what the projected Knicks, or we think the projected Knicks starting lineup will be,
right?
Where do you think we're going at point guard?
I'm going to have to say Kemba and Dick. We talked a little bit about this the last time we were on. We talked about, what the potential starters will be. I'm thinking at the point guard position, I'm going to have to say Kemba Walker. I think Coach Tibbs really enjoys having Quickly and Rose off the bench, type of combo guards that they can be, both scorers and, good tempo off the bench, So I would think that he wants to stick with that and giving Kemba an opportunity. So what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think so too. I don't foresee it being different unless, God forbid, Kemba got hurt. But yeah, I think naturally he is the better pick for the starting point guard at this point.
Right.
Yeah, so I agree with that.
Yeah.
What do you think about shooting guard? Because this one gets a little tricky because it could be the toss-up between shooting guard and small forward. We don't know exactly how they want to play it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to call it in this team, the team that we have put together right now, it's just I'm gonna call it a wing position. So one of those wing positions is obviously going to be RJ Barrett. The other going to be Fournier. If you wanted to get down to the mix of like, you know, who's going to play the 3 versus the 2, who's going to be the so-called shooting guard, because then, you know, that's not the way the game is played anymore. But if I was to say, if I matched them up, height, weight, shooting guard versus small forward, I'm going to put, in my opinion, I think Barrett will be the shooting guard because the 6'6" at his age, he's a little lighter, you know, probably a better, quicker defender. You're going to need that on the, you know, as a small forward, as a shooting guard, you know, high tempo offense is going to, you know, you want someone who can go on the perimeter a little better. I think Fournier is a little bit less of a defender, but a better overall shooter and overall scorer at this point in their career. So Fournier at the small forward position. And I think that's where we're at. Like I said, I think just calling them what they are, they're going to be wing players. I think those are the 2 starters for the wings.
That's a good point. That's exactly what I was wondering. I was trying to figure out what would be the criteria for picking RJ at either of the spots compared to Fournier. And I think you nailed it. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that shooting guards, small forwards are equally, you know, potent, but I think shooting guards are a little bit more dangerous when you look at today's game. So you want to have, you know, your best chance of having a, you know, a solid defender. And between the 2 of them, I think RJ is probably the better defender.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah,
I would say he is for sure. Right. I mean, Fournier has never been the best defender. I mean, he's not as quick-footed. He can play good defense. He's a good, you know, team defender. But then again, you know, you never know. I mean, he is the bigger body at this point in their career. You know what I mean? So he may be a better rebounder at this point, but we won't know until we see it in action, you know? So we'll see.
Okay. I see your point. So, okay. So if RJ is playing the 2, then that means we got Fournier at the 3. Power forward is Julius. That's, you know,
that's
no
guaranteed.
Yeah.
Right.
Now this is where it gets a little tricky. And this, you know, there's no really right or wrong answer because it could be either one of them. Who are we going with at the center position between Noel and Robinson?
Yeah. I mean, Noel got the bag, right? He's got the contract. So we can assume that it's going to be Noel. I personally would like to see Mitch Robinson stay in that starting position. But again, it's a toss-up. In my opinion, I would like to see a kind of a bigger defender, a more truer kind of center. You know what I mean? Kid that's 7 feet, got some weight to him. He could rebound the ball really well as a ring protector. And he also does a really good job defending in the perimeter, you know, off of pick and rolls. Like he does a good job of extending his arms out and playing tall, you know, as a defender. Where I see Noel kind of not necessarily have the same impact as a defender. I think he's a great rim runner. He blocks a lot of shots. And, you know, he's great at the rim, but not really so great as a perimeter defender. So yeah, that would be my ask if I was you know, if they were asking my opinion. I would say let's try Mitch out and see if he sticks. If he doesn't, then you don't lose out. You get Noel. You know, he's proven.
Well, I think that's Robinson is probably going to be the pick, and up until last week, I didn't think that. I thought it was going to be Noel, just because Mitch is working his way back, and I just felt like Noel. You know, you already know what you're getting, and Noel was most recently the guy for them, so it seems easier. But after watching Mitch in his workouts and then him conversation about what he's expecting of himself, he says he wants to be the defensive player of the year. If not, he wants to be on the first team defense. And if that's the case, then you want that guy out there starting.
First team defense, you have to start. I mean, you know, 9 times out of 10, you want to have the minutes of a starter.
Exactly.
Again, it all depends if he can stay on the court, right? I mean, his his biggest what they call it not threshold, but his biggest well, I guess I would say what he has to work on most is not fouling out, right? Staying out of foul trouble. That's kind of his Achilles heel, right now in his game. Although he did a better job of the first half of the season.
Yeah,
he was in games, he didn't really foul out much. And then he just got injured, so he's promising, like his growth is promising. And I think he's gained some weight, he's gained some muscle, which is awesome to see. Because you want him to be able to be in the games, especially against teams that have bigger bodies, like
right.
The Jokic's and the Embiid's and Drummond. The Lakers are fully packed right now. So, against teams like that, you want to be able to meet them size wise. You want to be able to stack up in size. So we'll see.
I hope he can maintain his quickness because, his feet may not be as good as some of the other, lengthy defenders, but his speed is right. He's still one of the faster defenders for his size and his I forgot what the term is, but that straight up jumping ability to get off your feet quickly. He still has that. So I don't know. I hope this weight that he's getting, because he added another 30 pounds, I hope that doesn't, impede that at all.
Right.
Because I was watching a video, just, sidetrack. I was watching a video of him yesterday, and the whole video was just watching his defensive movement from taking the center as the ball came down the court to him switching and then taking the point guard and then blocking the point guard shot. So it's just like watching his movements and how fast he is to be able to recover and then get his first step to jump up. It's just incredible. We definitely would love to have that, every Knicks game. Yeah.
Yeah. He has a ton of athletic ability and he's young, you know what I mean? And I think if he can stay healthy, if they could keep him healthy and he doesn't have any setbacks with the foot, I know he had the foot injury and then he had the hand injury. So if he doesn't have any setbacks there, I think we're going to be okay. He didn't seem to have much of that the first year. So again, was it a, right. You never know. You never know. I mean, with big guys, you never know. That's kind of always in question is like, can they hold up and for how long? You know what I mean? And I think
exactly
if they keep them with the right kind of trainers, I think our front office is really strong right now. And I'm almost certain that they geared up and are ready to go with their, with their physicians and making sure that their training staff is like up to par with everything that they need, So I'm confident that they'll make sure he does his best to stay on the court this year. So
yeah, no, I agree.
Even if it's like 60 games, you know what I mean?
No, I mean, if we can get out of an 82 game season, we can get 60 games out of Mitch.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know what's the comparison. It was a 72 game season last year. And I think he missed almost the last 2 months of the season. It was at least a month and a month.
It was right. He got hurt right before All-Star break. Remember, he got the two injuries. It started with the hand, remember? And then from the hand, it went to the foot when he got back. So, that's kind of, unfortunate circumstances,
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah. So, I mean, hopefully things work out. We'll see. We can just pray for the best. Right. Then that brings us to the sixth man off the bench. This is interesting because I think it's a toss up between two players. We already know how impactful Derrick Rose was for the Knicks last year, especially in the playoffs. But then you got instant offense in quickly.
I was actually thinking Burks.
Ooh, interesting. Huh. Yeah.
Just because, he's got the why I say Burks, because he's the most versatile of the bunch of the three. When you think of Rose quickly, he can play the 2, he can play the 1, he can play the 3. It makes it easy to say, hey, I need to give Barrett a breather or Fournier a breather. You know what I mean? That's interchangeable. You automatically go to Burks. You get what I'm saying?
And
between those two.
You can still keep some defensive integrity.
Right. And then at some point you're gonna bring in Rose, and Rose is primarily gonna come in for Kemba Walker. That's, without a doubt. And then quickly fits in where he fits in, once you have a full, 3-man rotation starters come out, he comes in and fills that void as the additional shooter. And then Burks kind of slides over to the small forward position.
I see your point. I guess I was kind of thinking of it as first man off the bench would probably be to relieve Kemba, because I feel like they're going to kind of limit Kemba's minutes. So it may not even be that Kemba's tired. They're just going to try to pull him out. So, but then again, if you do that, do you want to put another guy like Rose in there where you're going to try to watch his minutes too?
Right. Again, like it's kind of however they want to go, right? I mean, the great thing is that they have options, unlike last year where you kind of really had to just see how Peyton filled the first 5-10 minutes of the game, and then you're like, all right, we're falling behind. We got to get someone in there right away. And so this is a little different, because if anyone goes into foul trouble in regards to the three, the point guard and the two wings, you have the ability to go Rose or Burks, and even quickly at times. I don't think that's a wrong answer, but
yeah. So, in essence, we know that Rose will probably be the point guard off the bench,
right?
Without depending on whatever time he comes in the game, but he'll probably be the point guard. Quickly will be the shooting guard, and I guess Burks will be the small forward.
Right. With that lineup, yeah. If they come in that sequence, for sure.
Okay. So then at the 4, we got your man.
It's Toppin. I mean, right now it's Toppin. I mean, you can't pick anyone else at this point. I mean, I was making a statement when we last talked about it about Dwayne Bacon. But now I'm also realizing that if Toppin is only coming in as a power forward, that's not Bacon's role. Now, I was thinking they may use Toppin as a small forward, and I didn't realize, and I kind of forget about thinking through the roster really fully. Dwayne Bacon's really a 2-3 guard. He's a wing player. Right. He's not a power forward. He's not a center. He's a wing guy. So that alleviates him from being on that rotation when you have a healthy Burks. If you don't have a healthy Burks or healthy Quickly or Rose, I think Bacon may have that next role. But again, that's something to talk about. So I would say Toppin at this point. It would be almost a guarantee. It would be Toppin or Knox. I think they're the ones who fit the height and the at least that criteria. I wouldn't even say weight, but I would say height criteria. It's between Toppin and Knox, and I think Toppin has the edge there.
Right now, yeah. That's that seems pretty obvious since we haven't seen Knox do anything. Which, Knox still has a chance to show improvement, do something remarkable in their training camp.
Yeah, absolutely. You never know. You really never know.
It's true. I mean, what if Knox comes into training camp and starts shooting great and locking guys down? Maybe on the defensive end, he starts to get in people's face and starts to become a little bit more active than Obi is on defense, because that's still Obi's Achilles is defense. We know that.
Right. Right.
As opposed to other things, but
Right. Yeah, I mean, he rebounds the ball well, though. I give him that. Yeah. He rebounds the ball well, and he's getting better at defense. His lateral movement could be better, but again, right now you put his current history against Knox's, that's not much better on the defensive side, so we'll see. Yeah. We'll see if because there's also reports of Knox being in the weight room and and getting more physical and physically strong. And so, I mean, he's also super young too. What is he, 24?
I don't even
23.
Know. Is he even 24 yet?
I don't even think he's 24 yet, right?
He could be 22 or 23, because I think we got him when he was 18, and he's been with the Knicks 4 years. So he might be 22, going to be 23.
Let me see. I'm gonna look that up real quick, because that's true, man. I mean, like some players need time to mature into their bodies too. Some kids grow too fast, and they aren't.
He is. Wow, he just turned 22.
He's 22, jeez, man. And he's 6'7". So that Toppin is 6'8".
Oh no, Knox is 6'9".
Well, oh, but they have him listed here as 6'7". I don't know if
But
that's
I
true or
don't know.
not.
I got him on this other thing.
Okay, well, he's 22. And I think at that point, I mean, I thought he was more of a 6'9" type as well, because he seems like he's a taller frame.
Yeah, I thought he was like the Durant type. Durant 6'10".
I thought so too.
I thought he was right there with Durant almost.
I would say so. I don't know if they got this right on Google, but either way.
Yeah, I think that might be wrong.
Either way, he's 22. So, look, he's still filling in.
And he just turned 22. August 11th was his birthday, so.
He's just filling in, man. I mean, but again, it all depends on how much work he did on the offseason, how much work he's willing to put in training camp. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to make the summer camp team because of COVID, right?
Right.
So, we'll see what he was able to do on the during his time off, and he was able to get back onto the court and scrimmage a little bit. And we'll see how he comes into camp. And I expect to hear some rumblings about him, potentially, because the New York media always wants to put each player against each other to try to,
of course,
build that, what they call that, competition. You know what I mean? So we'll see how it turns out. But I say right now, Obi has the leg up.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right. So, and then obviously at the center position, the bench has got to be, it would be either, Mitch or Noel. But if we're saying that Mitch will start, then it's going to be Noel.
Right. And Taj could always steal minutes. But,
it's true.
It's all dependent on who's in foul trouble, who isn't, and who's in, injury.
We don't know. Right. Yeah, we don't know what the injury aspect is going to be exactly.
Right, COVID. Because I think
at some point, Taj and Noel were out there at the same time.
Yeah. And Taj started a few games too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Due to injuries, and they went small a lot with Randu at the 4. So, it was Taj and Randu. So, and then we had, what was that gentleman's name that he came in and
Norvell Pell?
Norvell Pell, yeah. Norvell Pell came in and he came off the bench for Taj. So, right. I mean, it's all dependent. We have COVID in our way, the new variant. You never know what happens, this upcoming season, the 82-game season. We could potentially even see Jericho Sims coming from the G League, at some point to spill some minutes and get people, back from injury or from COVID, so see how that looks.
I agree. So now we get to the 11th man. And I guess at this point, after you've already gone through what we think are the starters and the bench, who do you think is that next potential person that's coming into the game at that 11th spot?
Yeah, I think I have 2 guys. Well, I have 3. Well, again, this could be Taj. Taj would be the one, right, who you think automatically has the spot, the 11th spot. Because not only is he vital to the Knicks and their team, he's like a bench leader. He's a leader. He's a player leader type guy. He knows the game. He's been around the game. He knows Coach Tibbs. He knows the playbook. He knows New York. So he has all the intangibles to be the 11th guy. So I'm gonna say Taj has that 11th spot kind of sealed. But again, it's you're only going to see that 11th guy when you absolutely need a player to, fill in. And again, that's always going to be interchangeable depending on the need, right? Because Taj isn't going to play, small forward or shooting guard. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's interchangeable with can I throw 2 other names out? Interchangeable. Sure. I would say that's interchangeable with Kevin Knox and Dwayne Bacon. That's who I think are the 2 others that are going to be interchangeable in that role. So,
gotcha. Yeah, I actually, to be honest with you, I would probably say I could see Dwayne Bacon and maybe Knox before I even think we'll see Taj. I don't even think if the Knicks had it their way, should I say, if Thibodeau had it his way, I don't think we should see Taj that much. I think we're only going to see Taj if there's injuries or people are in foul trouble, because I think they want Taj for one, they brought him back because he's a good player. He's a good locker room guy. I think his leadership is excellent. He might even be a coach down the line. Who knows if that's what he wants to pursue? But he has that makeup.
Right.
And I think they felt, one, they could always use another guy with some type of defensive background that has a little height because we're still a small team. And I think they're rewarding. Taj played big for us last year. We had nothing.
He sure did.
We were falling apart. So I think it was also a reward to bring him back. And he'll definitely help with Mitch's growth. And if Jericho comes up and he's on the team, he's somebody who can definitely mentor Jericho. So I think he's definitely going to be one of those guys that you can expect to possibly give us minutes, but I wouldn't pencil it in. I think he'll be more of he's definitely the reserve role. So I would think Bacon and Knox will probably be, get that nod sooner rather than later. And then after that, I guess we get into the young rooks.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, you can't really go wrong by saying McBride's going to get some of those, that time, or Quentin Grimes. I don't think that's a wrong thing to say. I don't think you're like well off if you were to think that they're going to be able to pick up some of those minutes once injuries happen. But from what I understand about Coach Tibbs is that he likes to go with guys who have been able to play the NBA game at that level, you know what I mean? And are trained to understand the playbook, right? Are trained to really get where they need to go in the playbook, right? Especially defensively. And I think rookies always struggle in the beginning. We've seen it with Toppin, we've seen it with Quickly last year, where there were moments where they struggled mightily on the defensive end. And that to me is something that his coaching kind of mantra is these young kids are going to get that time in practice. They want more time than that. They're going to get that experience through the G League. You know what I mean? Like that's the way he's mentored. That's the way he does it. You know what I mean? So that's why I turn and I say, you look at Knox and you look at, Dwayne Bacon, you know what I mean? Yeah. You look at a guy like Dwayne Bacon who has, a few years in the league and is a little bit more mature. He comes in ready. Percentage wise, he may not be the best shooter when you look at his stats. But when you look at his overall game and talent, he has talent. Like you know what I mean? He has the skills that can get him, minutes in the NBA. And he's proven that because he played with Orlando Magic. Although the Orlando Magic weren't a top team, he still had valuable minutes, So I would say unless they're moving on from those guys and trading a Dwayne Bacon, I would think that he would get kind of that, where you say the 11th man role, 12 to 11 to 13, right? Those guys, who kind of spell in minutes if you need it because of injury or COVID or anything else.
No, I agree. And so after that point, I think this is when you get into because those guys are definitely going to be on the active roster. They're not going to go to the G League. So McBride and Grimes should be on the bench. And I think if need be, you'd start to see them at these stages, which is, it doesn't mean you're going to see too much of them because we've already named a bunch of guys. Tibbs doesn't like to go too deep. However, what I was going to mention to you is next week when we take a look at the Knicks schedule, I think there's going to be a bigger need for Thibodeau to play a lot of these guys. I think the way in which the competition they're going to have to face, because the Knicks have a really tough schedule once again, but a lot of people do, but they have a really tough stretch. And during that stretch, I think it's going to be all hands on deck. They're going to need all these guys. So yeah, we'll see what happens. And I don't know at this point, we can't really say what minutes are going to come to guys like Grimes and McBride. It'll just be when something happens, there's availability.
Right. Unless they during training camp, knock it out the park, right? Unless they like really in tune with the offense, really in tune with the defense, understand the playbook, know where they need to be, know their spots. At some point, it would make the coaches, it would be hard on the coach to not play a kid, right? When you look at Quickly and what he was able to do last year, as quickly as he came into the game last year, even though some of that was because we really didn't have that much depth last year in comparison to this year. So he had the opportunity of kind of showcasing his talent. This year, I think the showcase of their talents were Summer League. And then we may or may not see some minutes from them, maybe 2 or 3 minutes garbage time, very back end. If you're winning games or if you're getting blown out, you'll see them get some minutes. But I agree with you. We're not going to see them, get much of any minutes during, really close contested games.
Here's a quick, interesting question that I thought about, because now that I named those two guys off, we already talked about Bacon, we talked about Knox, we talked about Taj. So that gives us 15 guys. That's our active roster right there.
Right.
So when the regular season starts, we can only hold 15 guys. That's it.
That is it.
So the question being is, I'm just thinking about something that's kind of sneaky and interesting. And I wonder if you can finagle things that way. I wonder if at some point, because we haven't mentioned Jericho Sims, and we know Jericho Sims is signed to a 2-way contract, which I don't know the exact number, but I want to look it up so I can be as accurate as possible.
Right.
I think with a 2-way contract, you can only play a certain number of games in the NBA season. I think it may be 50.
You may be right. You may be right. And again, you could use that spot when a player gets injured or goes down with COVID, right? Because now you remove them from the active roster, you place them on the DL,
right?
And then you bring in a Jericho Sims to fill that void. You know what I mean? So we're going to see Jericho Sims on our team. Whether or not he gets minutes, that's a different story. But we're going to see him with the team. He's going to be, he's going to be, and then after the season, because the Westchester season ends early, right? So at some point, he's going to be a guy who you see with a suit, right? He's going to be on the bench, but he's going to be with a suit. He's going to be inactive. And that's just what it's going to be. So he's going to be around. It's just, will he get playing minutes? We don't know. It would depend
here's
on
the problem. Here's the problem. If we already know the active roster is 15, you can't hold more than that. So we know Jericho's going to start off with the G League, right? And it looks like I did confirm it. It used to be 45 games. They changed it to 50 games. So he can only play 50 games in the season.
Right.
I don't know how long the G League, is, but that's
probably like 30-some games, maybe.
If that,
it's like
right?
college.
I feel it's
like the college.
So then I would expect him to be there like the whole G League for the most part, I would think.
Yeah.
So that means that the Knicks have a decision to make, because if you got 15, you bring up a G League guy, you got to cut someone. So that means at some point, Knox, or because I don't think they're cutting the two young guys, the two McBride and Grimes. So that's Knox and Taj and Dwayne Bacon.
Well, here's the thing. Why would you cut somebody? You don't necessarily have to bring them up to play him unless.
No, but he's got to be on your active roster. He doesn't have to play, but he's got to be on the roster. So when it's time for him to come up, somebody's got to go.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that's how it worked.
Yeah. So that's the problem. So, and then that's why I was thinking that my question was, I wonder if the Knicks can do that. It's kind of funky and real interesting. But if Jericho goes to the G League and just say he looks great, first couple, games, he's, trying to find himself. But then after a few weeks down there, he's just tearing it up. He's looking dominant, right? So by the time he actually comes up, I wonder if the Knicks could say, I mean, they're already locked into Taj for the money. Can they change Taj from a player to a coach?
To a coach? I think they could.
That's
a potential. That is potentially could possibly happen. Again, it all depends on Taj.
You want Taj in the emergency situation. But it's really, if Jericho's balling out, then you've got somebody to replace him. And I think Taj, Taj did us a favor by coming back last year. He was
Mhm.
retired. He was good. Tibbs
Mhm.
brought him back. So I don't know.
Right.
Maybe he would want to do something like that. It's interesting.
I think that may be his future. You know what I mean? Again, it's all dependent on. I mean, I don't know how many coaches you can keep on your team either.
Right.
So we would have to see if they have a vacant spot. I know last year they lost Woodson and they never recouped Woodson's spot. So
No.
that could be it. Who knows? But that would be great to see also. But again, it's all dependent on Jericho's his growth and his maturity and
if Taj would be willing to do something like that.
Of course, it would have to be Taj's decision at some point.
But that would be a sweet scenario, though. That would be nice.
That would be pretty nice, and I'm glad you're talking about it because I never really heard that perspective. That's pretty cool. Yeah. That's interesting.
So that's the thing. So we know Jericho's going to be in the G League. We invited. Right now, I think we have 19 total people on the roster. So 4 people got invites to training camp.
Right. I think Amir Sims was one.
Amir Sims got an invite.
Right.
MJ Walker got an invite.
Right. And so that's 17.
We still have Luca Vildoza under contract
17.
signed.
Yeah, that's 16, 17. Amir's 16. MJ Walker 17. Luca. Right, you said?
Right.
So that would be 18. And then who's our 19 guy?
Jericho's 19. If you want to put it that
Jericho's 19.
Jericho's
19. Okay,
19.
Jericho's 19. Okay, well, Jericho would be 16 then at that point. But
yeah. He would.
Yeah, Jericho would be the 16th player. Then Amir, MJ, and Luca somewhere around there. It could be Luca, then MJ. Or it could be Luca before Amir Sims, to be honest. I don't really know. Because Luca hasn't really played. He didn't play much. He played, but didn't really do much in the summer league. You know what I mean? Not enough to really get any, he didn't get as many minutes. He wasn't the first, you would think if they had any plans for him, he would be starting the game, and he wasn't.
Right.
So that was interesting to see. Wonder why we even made the move to pick him up. Maybe it was a kind of win-win situations, in case we don't land our guy, we have Vildoza,
Yeah.
So I
think part of it was one, you're right. If we don't land that guy, we've got Vildoza. And the other thing is it's not a lot of money that they spent.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it's guaranteed, but we're still talking about little money. I don't think he's making more than $3 or $4 million per year. But the point is, it's a nice contingency plan. It's a nice, just in case we have something. But the other thing I don't think they were expecting is I think Rokas is going to be a pretty good player for us. And if you
in the future,
right. If you wind up bringing Rokas here, then you don't really need Vildoza.
Right.
Because
then we probably lost Jared Harper, right? Because Jared was without team last year, so we probably lost him. And I know we had a couple of Auburn point guards on our team last year for West Justice. So maybe those guys moved on, and I don't see Vildoza going in the summer to the G League. I'll be surprised, but who knows?
Yeah. So I wonder what they would do in that case. What if they feel like right now he doesn't seem to fit the team, but you may not necessarily just want to cut him because he still may be somebody you want on the team, but you can't send him to the G League. I don't think he would be with that anyway. So can you still send him overseas and retain his rights if he's under an NBA contract?
That's true too. Here's also a question: Would as good as they've done, would Tibbs and the coaching staff believe enough in having young players come into the G League and test and get more playing time in the G League and have Vildoza for the first half of the season on the main roster, and then let those kids, McBride and Grimes, really, get their skill level, get into games as starters, work in the same playbook. I could potentially see that happen because, they don't get an opportunity to play because the rosters are so heavy. Why not put a Vildoza at a 15 and a Bacon, You know what I mean? Like some other guys there, because they're not going to get into games unless it's absolutely necessary. You know what I mean?
That's interesting.
You know,
because they may do something like that. They may say, you know what,
yeah.
Maybe let's give it like 2 weeks. Let's say for the first 2 weeks, you know, McBride and Grimes are down there, you know, playing.
But think about it, if it's a 30-game season, like what is a 30-game season? You get them action. They get action with like starting. You know, that was similar to like some of the conversation about should Obi be up last year? You know what I mean? And not in the G League. A lot of those conversations were happening. And Coach Tibbs felt like with a shortened season, with the way things were, his best opportunity was to play with the team now and not to put him. And because the G League was canceled, right?
Right.
So you didn't have an opportunity to put him down. You know what I mean? So there was development as you go. This to him is like, this is where I can develop my players, my young players, to really know the system, to really get intangible minutes, to play heavy minutes as starters. And then, you know what I mean? Like, because it's a short season. And then after that, then you make the cuts, then you make the moves where you take the three, Jericho Sims, McBride, and Quentin Grimes, you bring them up, and then you drop whoever is kind of, you know, at that point, you know, not, I wouldn't say useless to you, but not in the mix per se.
I mean, it would suck for some Knicks fans, and, you know, me loving watching Deuce play. But it would make a lot of sense and would help them definitely narrow down who they really need to keep on the team, because they've been giving these guys like Bacon and other guys opportunities to go out there and play. And if it just doesn't look like it works, then you know what you got, you know, at the G League. This is a good
point.
But
not only that, you also give them an opportunity to get looks by other teams.
That's true,
right?
Too.
And they're more of a veteran type of guy. So let's say Vildoza. The reality is Tibbs is going to go 8, right? He may go 9, right? That's the reality. You may not even see those guys, but if they get an opportunity to play, they're playing to be seen by other teams. You know what I mean? And other teams are going to say, okay, how is our roster shaping out? Do we have injuries? Are we dealing with so many things? You know what I mean? And then those are the guys who the Knicks could potentially get some draft picks for, you know what I mean? Or some money, you know, and that's big. That's a big key. And that's why I like the way our depth is this year. It's like Leon Rose has done a magnificent job getting the depth in. And with good players, solid players. You know, I could see a Vildoza filling a role in another team. You know, there's a lot of teams that like European players, Spurs being one of them, right? So you never know. You could be playing, you know, and then there's also like, you know, the player relationship. You know, you have a key player from a certain team. Let's say he comes from Spain or he comes from Argentina. They're going to want to play with their countrymen. You know what I mean? So if there's an opportunity, they're going to speak highly of those countrymen to bring them on in. You know what I mean? So that's kind of it goes hand in hand sometimes. So I could see that happening, man. At least if you say the first 30 games, and then that'll give Westchester, like, you know how many Knicks fans are going to be tuning into Westchester games or trying to find them?
That's true. That's true.
You bring revenue to Westchester.
That's interesting. And that's a high possibility. And I think that would probably be what happens anyway. Maybe not, because I don't know if you remember. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. The Knicks kept sending certain guys down so they could stay active. Trier, right.
Trier was one of them.
Down so they could play and stay active. And then they would bring them back up. Now, that's what Tibbs, apparently, what the organization said they would have loved to do with Obi in the beginning of the season when there still was a G League. But the problem is with the COVID protocols, you can't just bring a guy back up. You got to wait through everything. So they were like, and then it makes sense. And then the G League got canceled, like you said. So,
because I remember hearing those things, you know what I mean? I remember the talks being that. But again, like I said, I mean, that's a strong possibility that we don't see these kids up until after the Westchester is done with their season. And then we see them come up. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a great thing. I mean, you think about an 82-game season. The grind is hard for these kids. You know what I mean? You're going to see them hit the wall. At least they get their bodies accustomed to playing heavy minutes down in the G League. And then they learn how to become starters. You know what I mean? And that's important. They learn how to be in the end of games to win games. You can't teach that. You have to play through that. You know, those are great opportunities for them. And it ain't like the G League has minimal talent. Like, these are guys who are NBA ready, who just not happen to make a cut. You know, I mean, how many players are there in the NBA? Like about 1,000 or so. That's out of millions and millions of kids who want to play ball. You know what I mean? Like, it's you know, they're gonna see talent.
It's true. You made a good point. Yeah, that'd be interesting. Now you give me something to take a look at and see how they're gonna play it, because that actually does make a lot of sense.
Huh. Yeah, man. You never know what, you know, you become the MVP of the G League. Look at what it got. Where it got this kid, first round draft pick.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean,
you know, he was going to be anyway, but I'm just saying, see the experience he comes out of the G League, similar to college, you know, if not better, to be honest, because, you know, a lot of those college players aren't going to make the G League.
Right.
You know, they may have to go overseas and find, you know, a way to make income playing basketball overseas. You know, a lot of college players end up ending their careers just playing college and never do anything more, you know. So you think about as many teams that there are nationally, and then you got European teams. So everybody's vying to play in America and in the NBA somehow. Right. Those who don't make the NBA get put to the G League because they're developing. So, you know,
I mean, yeah, you make a good point. You know, now that you said that, and we started talking about Sims and what that might look like for, you know, the Knicks and making a cut to make space for him, made me start thinking, like, Knox is in trouble, man. Knox has got a lot to worry about.
He does. I mean, he's got to come in ready, you know, and, you know, the history talks about, you know, him, you know, being young, still being a young kid. I mean, you know, he plays a lot of, from what I remember them talking about him playing a lot of video games. You know, he's really in tune with, you know, his gameplay, you know, video gameplay, I should say. Is he going to take the NBA and his profession as serious as he does gaming? You know what I mean? It reminds me of an episode of what is it? The one with The Rock, that football HBO joint.
Oh,
what was that called? Ballers.
Yeah.
Where the football player became a gamer. You know what I mean? That's sort of like what reminds me when the people are saying like Knox likes to play video games. But I don't know. You know what I mean? Like this is hearsay. So if that is somewhat true, then he has to pick what he wants to do as a profession, whether he wants to game or he wants to play basketball. If he wants to play basketball, he's gonna have to put the time in and the work in, and he's got to mature into that basketball player that everyone thought he would be. You know what I mean? You can't blame it on coaching anymore. That's the biggest thing. You can't do that, because developing a player is what Tibbs and his coaching staff does. So, you know, we'll see. Excuse the background noise. The baby just woke up from a nap and starting to cry.
No, it's okay. Actually, that's probably on cue. The baby's probably telling us, wrap it up.
Wrap it up. That's so true.
Yeah, man. But yeah, so I think that's pretty much how things will most likely shake out. Yeah. And I'm excited about that prospect, because I think the Knicks team that we got going forward, it should equate to a couple more wins. I mean, I would say maybe between 4 to 5 more victories. And I'd be happy with that, because we won 41 games last year. If we can win 45 or 46, I think that puts us in a good spot.
It could be potentially more, depending on how we start the season. Again, it's about gelling.
Right.
It's about gelling and how much time these guys get in training camp. You know, the great thing is that you have guys who are coming in who know each other to a degree, right? You got a full core of guys coming back. Know the system and know how to play the system. You got 2 guys in Kemba Walker and Fournier who know how to play with each other, right? And know similar systems, right? Because they coach under similar guides. You know, there was friends of Tibbs, like what's the guy from from Orlando. He was running Orlando with
Steve
Fournier
Clifford,
was there. Steve Clifford, right?
Yeah.
He comes under the Van Gundy,
Right.
team. So it's like he knows, he understands that type of basketball and what needs to happen. Kemba also has some sort of connection there as well with his Connecticut connection, playing in UConn, similar style of basketball training, coaching, stuff like that. So, like, I think those guys are
Jim Calhoun,
naturally going to fit in to a system like this. It's just a matter of them getting time with each other and figure out where. And I think Fournier spoke to this in his press conference when they invited him to the, I think there was I forget what they call it, but like the jersey, when they gave him their jersey, whatever.
Oh, right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But he spoke to this as like, we just need to learn where people like to have the ball and where are their spots. Where do they enjoy shooting from? Where do they prefer the outlet pass to? Once you get that, it becomes natural. It becomes flowing water. You know what I mean? So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be good. And they're vets. So then they get it. They understand the game.
Yeah, I just hope that the way they envision setting up the team is how it plays out. Because the team was a good defensive team. We lost a little bit of that, but not enough to affect the defensive culture. We should still be a really good defensive team, and we should be able to add more offense, probably an extra 10 points a game. Because if you're adding two basically 20-point scorers, compared to Bullock, who was a 11-point scorer, and Peyton, who was I don't know what he was.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there were moments. He had moments. With that squad.
He did have moments, but he averaged 5 or 6 points a game.
Yeah, it was the inconsistency from the 3-point range, right? From the 3-point line. And that's not what we're going to have anymore. We aren't going to have the inconsistent shooting when it comes to the two players that we added, right? You get the Kemba Walker and you get the Fournier. The knockdown shooters, especially when they're open, like then you're going to expect them to fall. I mean, there may be times where they're not having a good shooting night, but overall, you think, overall their history says they're high percentage shooters. So that's the biggest key. Is like who, and then we have guys who can actually penetrate and be playmakers as well. That's the one key difference where you didn't have with Reggie Bullock. He wasn't a playmaker. You know what I mean? And there were parts where Payne's game that was similar to that, but he also was, I don't know what the right word is, but he kind of had tunnel vision sometimes going to the basket, and but with Fournier and Kemba, they got more versatility to their game. So you have to be able to guard them from the outside. You can pack it inside, so it allows for things to be wide, a little bit more open in the middle, and allows for penetration and for playmakers to do what they do. So
and it should definitely help. It should definitely help Randall.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
I think it's going to be a big help for RJ too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we may see a dip in some of their numbers, but I think overall they're going to play an easier game. It'll make life easier on the offensive end for each of them to get their shots off when they need to get their shots off.
Right.
You may not get 30 plus games back to back to back, but I can see consistently 16 to 20 points a game from both Barrett and Randall. You know what I mean? And then you may not see Kemba have to drop 20 or Fournier. But if those guys ain't clicking, you have the option of going to Fournier and he'll get you 20, or Kemba, he'll get you 20. You know what I mean? So they may not be the first option, but they are an option, which is better not to have than not to.
Hey, man, I'm just ecstatic, and I can't wait to see them actually start getting into some basketball. I'll be really – I'm almost so excited that, I wouldn't be surprised if somehow I got an invite to go see Knick training camp and I made it there. I don't know. That's how excited I am. I wouldn't want to really go to that because that's like it's a spectacle, but that's how excited I am.
Yeah, that's dope, man. I mean, look, I'm excited for the season. I'm glad. I'm happy with the moves that they made. I mean, we didn't make the biggest splash, which would have been, of course, Damian Lillard, but everyone understands what we would have what we would have had to get rid of, in order to get a Damian Lillard. Like, that's damn near restarting an entire team all over again. That's Melo all over again. I'm glad they made the decision to go this route because we just got better. We got better. Not how much better, we don't necessarily know, but we definitely got better.
Well, I'm still worried about that, my friend. That's still in the back of my head because you know what? All it takes is for the Knicks to be playing decent basketball and for Dame to be like, yo, it's the same crap over here. I got to get out of here. And once he starts barking, Knicks are going to listen. So I'm still worried about it.
They should, though. They should listen.
No, of course. But I'm still worried about it because I just think if there was a way to get him where you don't disrupt the whole nucleus of your team, that's fine. But I don't think there's ever a way to get a superstar player like that without disrupting your nucleus. So
that's so true. That is so true. It's so true. But again, I mean, we'll see, man. We have to see what the season pans out like, you know. And again, if the Knicks like who they got, I don't see them making a move. If we start the season and Kemba's balling like we expect him to ball, because everyone keeps talking about his knees, but remember the knee injury came at the back end of the season. He played well for the most of the entire season with Boston. I mean, he wasn't like Kemba of Charlotte, you know what I mean? But he was still Kemba. Like he was still putting numbers and he still hit a couple of game winners. You know what I mean? Like he was still Kemba Walker. You had to defend him. And then the back end of the season in the playoff is when he got injured. And that sort of, you know, comes with the game. It comes with the territory. Sometimes you get injured, sometimes you don't. Hey, look, Giannis got injured. He luckily came back from injury.
Luckily, I didn't think he was going to come back. Yeah.
Right? You know how many shots he must have taken to get to be on those legs, man. You know, listen, that was a crazy injury. So, I mean, look, anything can happen in basketball. Injuries are part of the game. I think Kemba's going to be great if he holds up well. And I think Rose held up well for an entire season, 60 games or so, right? Because he had the COVID situation.
Right. And we missed him for a little while too. Yeah, that was big.
I mean? We missed Burks as well for a little bit.
Yeah.
Due to COVID.
So and that's interesting because you look at that. Look at that. We still wound up winning 41 games and getting the 4th seed. We lost Mitchell Robinson for a long spell. We lost Rose for longer than we expected because his COVID protocol thing was a lot longer than most. Yeah. And we lost Burks for a good stretch of time. And, you know, for what our team was made up of, that's a lot. So
that is a lot. Listen, that could have been do or die for us. But again, when we walk through the season week to week, we would call out the games. You know, would we win this game? Could we win? And there was games that we didn't necessarily think they can pull off, and we got some of those wins. You know what I mean? And you know, to our surprise, they came up big against Milwaukee a couple of times, against the Pacers a couple of times. You know, even the Hawks. So, you know.
So I think that's what we should do next week. We should give our little breakdown of the season to see what the record's going to be, because that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that's it. That's going to be tough. I don't know if we could do the whole first half, though. That's a lot.
Oh, man. I don't know, man. Ain't nothing but a thing. I think we
Oh, no. So, we could try. We could try. I'm down for it.
We'll see, man. All right. Well, no, listen, this has been another great one. You know, like we said out there, people, you know, this is our Know the Ledge edition. We're going to give this to you for another week until we get to, you know, back to being full strength. And you get back to seeing your normally scheduled podcast at the normal scheduled time as well. But thank you for tuning in. It's always a pleasure. My brother John, you know, as always, you know what I mean? Couldn't do this without you, and there's nothing better than talking about Knicks with you. So
that's a fact. This is what we do, man. We do this on the regular.
Thank
definitely
you.
Subscribe, tune in, send the comments over. You know, email us if you want to get on with us when we get back to full strength. We're gonna, you know, open opportunities for Knicks fans to come by and just explore the season with us and explore, you know, conversating about the Knicks and what you see potentially happening in training camp and maybe in the offseason.
Yep. And tell a friend who tells a friend.
I love that.
We appreciate it. All right, y'all. Thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one. It's been a pleasure.
We out. Peace.